Have you ever wondered if we're living on a sustainable budget with our planet? Like a bank account? Today, we're going to dig into exactly that. How much nature does humanity actually consume, and how in the world do we even begin to measure it? So let's just get right to the heart of it. The big question is this: are we using more resources and creating more waste than our planet can handle in 1 year? It's basically asking if you're spending more money than you make. But for the planet, well, the answer is absolutely critical. And the answer is a resounding yes. It's not even close, really. Right now, humanity is using the ecological resources of 127 Earths. Let that sink in for a second. To put it another way, it takes our planet about 20 months to regenerate what we use in just 12. We are deep, deep in ecological debt. All right, so let's unpack this. The best way to think about it is really like that bank account. We are consistently withdrawing way more than nature can deposit. You could say this is our planet's official overdraft notice. This global ecological deficit is actually marked on the calendar. It's called Earth Overshoot Day. This is the exact date each year when we've officially used up our entire ecological budget for that year. Every single day after that date, we're operating in a deficit. We're literally borrowing resources from the future. And what's really alarming is that date has been creeping earlier and earlier every year. So how on earth do scientists even calculate this stuff? How do we measure our collective demand on the planet? Well, that brings us to the core concept for today's explainer. The tool they use is called the ecological footprint, and it's a brilliant accounting system, really. It's measured in what's called global hectares, and it tallies up all the productive land and sea area we need to produce everything we consume. We're talking food, clothes, you name it, and to absorb all our waste, especially our carbon emissions. Now, what's really fascinating is how our footprint breaks down. It's made of 6 key parts. You've got the land for our crops, grazing land for livestock, forests for timber, fishing grounds for seafood, and of course, the land for our cities. But take a look at that biggest slice of the pie. For most of the world, the carbon footprint from burning fossil fuels is the single largest reason we're in this ecological overshoot. Of course, this footprint isn't stomped evenly across the globe. Not at all. The story of our global footprint is really a tale of profound inequality. Let's take a closer look. So, on one hand, you have high-income nations with these enormous per-person footprints, mainly because of high consumption. But on the other hand, a lot of low-income nations have much smaller footprints, but they often have less of their own resources, that's called biocapacity, and they're the ones facing the harshest consequences of a depleted planet, like land degradation and extreme weather. And this chart just illustrates that difference so clearly. Look at the massive per-person footprint of a country like the United States. Now compare that to Costa Rica, which has made these huge strides in renewable energy, resulting in a much smaller footprint. And then you have India, with a very low per-person footprint, but it faces just immense pressure on its own resources because of its massive population. So we see the what, the where, and the who. But what about the why? What are the underlying forces that are pushing our demand for resources higher and higher? Well, it really comes down to a handful of key drivers. As the global population grows, so does the basic demand for resources. That's a given. Then our consumption patterns, especially things like fast fashion and how much food we waste, they just amplify that pressure. And when you add in our deep dependency on fossil fuels, inefficient industrial systems, and the crazy fast expansion of cities, well, they all combine to inflate our collective footprint. Okay, that might all sound a bit bleak. I know. But here's the hopeful part. Understanding the problem is always the first step to solving it. And the good news is we have the tools and the knowledge to design a future where we can actually thrive within our planet's means. So let's look at some solutions. So a big part of the solution has to come from the top down. We're talking about large-scale, systemic changes led by governments and industries. Things like a rapid shift to renewable energy, redesigning our entire economy to be circular, where we reuse and recycle pretty much everything, along with stronger environmental laws and massive efforts to protect and restore our natural ecosystems. But it's not just about the big guys. Solutions also have to come from the bottom up. Our choices, our individual and community choices, they matter immensely. We're talking about simple things like cutting down on food waste, shifting toward more plant-rich diets, just conserving water and electricity at home, and choosing to buy things that are built to last instead of disposable fast fashion. All of these actions, when we do them together, create a really powerful wave of change. So what's the ultimate goal here?
It's captured perfectly in this classic definition of sustainability. It's all about finding a way to live well today without stealing from our kids and grandkids tomorrow. And shrinking our ecological footprint, that's exactly how we get there.
And that leaves us with this final fundamental question. We know the Earth has limits. The science on that is crystal clear. The real challenge for our generation and for everyone that follows is how are we going to choose to live within them?